All right, you want to get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
All right. Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Triple Play. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we appreciate Brookes Bible College. If you are looking for a good Bible college, make sure you guys are checking out Brookes Bible College. We're very, very blessed to partner with those guys and appreciate their support. That said,
Who do we have today?
well, we got somebody who I've known for a while, and we were talking about 20 years.
Yeah, I think so.
About 20 years. And so we have Kim Underwood. She, I don't even know how you got to St. Louis. I know you told me at one point, but we met at a Christian bookstore, the Family Christian Bookstore.
Yep.
At the mall at that time, right?
Yeah.
So, and I would go in there all the time, and she was always there, bubbly, cheerful, and handling everybody, and even people we were just talking about that weren't always so nice back. And so I was probably buying lots of CDs back then. And
Yeah.
so, but she moved on from that to radio and is now a prominent radio DJ. I guess, did they call you guys DJs
Yeah,
now?
I think so. It's a little of everything.
Yeah.
DJ, radio girl, on-air talent, you name it. The girl from the afternoon.
I think you're more popular in my house than me.
I'm sorry. I usually I tend to track well with the teen girls. So so sorry.
That would be the reason
Yeah.
why. I have 4 girls. And they're all middle school through high school and
Yep.
college. So
My jam right there.
there's your jam.
Yeah.
Can we get your shoes out of the way? I'm just going to mention them because those things look amazing, and I'm actually going to go try them out.
They're awesome. They're called Kizik.
Okay.
And they, you don't tie, you just step, they're the kind that you just step in and the back doesn't go down. They're incredible. So we'll probably get to this, but I had cancer in my foot a few years back in this foot, and shoes are really hard for me now because I have this humpback whale thing on the top of my foot. And so I have to be really, picky, about shoes, and Kiziks are my jam.
Well,
They're amazing. Not to, throw it out there, but
and I'm going to try them on.
You're a fan, hey?
they're awesome.
They look sweet. They look like you're walking around on pillows.
Yeah, and I think these are called Mars or something, so they're very space agey.
There you have
Well,
it.
there you go.
You were get out of the way. I needed to
Yeah.
because those things look sweet.
They are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about where you came from and the St. Louis question, where you went to school, and then the journey, both in your faith and how you wound up in St. Louis at the Family Christian Store.
So I'm originally from Washington State, so Whidbey Island, which is a beautiful little vacation spot for a lot of people, or a military stop if your dad is in the Navy, like mine was. And my mom was local to the area, but my dad was stationed there, and so that's where I'm from originally. We moved around a lot, not because of the military, but just because we weren't very good at rooting as a family. And so I eventually ended up in Champaign, Illinois area. That's where I call home. So when I graduated from high school there, I'm not from St. Louis. So when people say, "Where'd you go to high school?" I'm like, "You've never heard of it." So, because it was a weird question to me when I moved here.
Did you where you grew up, maybe in Seattle, did they have a question that they would ask?
I was little when we moved from there, but mostly probably in Champaign, it was like, does your dad farm or work at the U of I or in the factories? Those are your options, There was
out there. That's like, do you go to Piggly Wiggly or you go to Savers? Or
right. Yeah.
Got to figure out what you're about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Champaign is kind of home area. It's a little town called Rantoul, just north of Champaign. And I worked at a Christian bookstore there. And it was a mom and pop store, and we eventually sold it to Family Christian. And then from there, I transferred here. And I was like, what am I doing? I had 12 days to make the decision. And at the time, I was working at a youth, at the bookstore, but also with youth. And I remember calling my mom when I was offered the job and said, "What do you think?" And I was really invested with working with these students, and my mom was like, "All these kids are going to grow up and move away, and maybe you should do that too." And I was like, "What? I'm your only child. How dare you?"
You just keep in with the family traditions of just go wherever.
I guess so. I did, and I moved here and worked at the mall for several years, and then one of my regular customers, was on the board at the station, and we always would talk music because I had a little radio experience from college, and she's like, you really should talk to, the GM over there. And I was like, I don't know. And at that point, I was good at what I did, but I was really, really tired of it. And just, retail is a hard life. And I didn't have a college degree. So I kind of figured this is my lot in life, and there are some people that love retail as a career and they're amazing at it and that they're very passionate about it. I just felt like this is all I could do. And I remember going home to my mom's, or going home for the weekend. And my pastor said, when Paul went back to Tarsus, he wasn't banging down doors and handing out resumes. He kept building his tents while God prepared ministry for him. And I was thinking like, maybe I shouldn't call the station, but just keep building my tents, because I did feel like I had a great ministry at the bookstore there, and people were hurting, and I could, pray with them, and I could help meet their needs with, products and books and things like that. But I had no idea the ministry that he was preparing for me through the radio station. So a few weeks later, the GM, Sandy, called me and said, hey, I heard you met Jennifer, and I came in for a talk, and 16 years later, I'm still there at Joy FM, and
she fell in love with you. She saw your personality.
Fell in love with it. Well, here's the great thing. They actually hired me as the promotions director. But one of the things that's so amazing about Joy FM is that if you're the right person but in the wrong spot, they'll move you to you're the right person in the right spot. There's way too many details for promotions for this girl. I am not cut from that cloth. So they were like, why don't we try you on air? And then it was like, oh, I just came alive, and it's just so much fun.
That's cool.
I love it.
It made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you'd asked me in that time, I would have said, you need to be on air.
Oh, gosh. Thank you.
You have such a bubbly personality. You just love people, and it comes through with whether I see you or not. I can hear it in your
thank
tone.
you.
So
thanks.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like it's been a thing. I mean, in college, somebody suggested it to you. So
yeah,
you're not the only one that...
I've always been on some sort of stage. So I actually grew up in the pageant world. So I did pageants from when I was 6 until I was 19. So that was my sport. I know we're triple play here. I should warn you, I was actually called Kim the Crusher Underwood in summer softball league. So there's that.
That's an amazing nickname.
I think so too.
It's really good.
But pageants were really my thing. And so I've always enjoyed, I don't mind being out front in that regard, but it just never occurred to me that radio could be something so fulfilling. I actually tried to major in TV, and it was like, oh, this is really, people are mean, so. But radio is awesome because no one sees you and you can look however you want and it's fine.
That is great.
Here's a funny little side fact. I actually took 2 classes in radio production.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
At Merrimack, yeah. I really liked radio and was really...
Yeah.
Back then, though, it was a whole different... this is like early 90s, so the technology was way different.
Oh, yes.
You had to splice, dice, and know how to do all that, but it was cool. It was cool. It was fun taking those classes and learning how to use mics. And
it's a great industry, and especially for, younger women, if you're looking for somewhere to, just be able to encourage and have a voice and have fun. And if you're passionate about music and people, it's such a great industry to go into. So I'm very blessed in the fact that we are a non-commercial station. So I don't have to worry about the pressures of sales and whether or not my job relies on sales, like mainstream and commercial radio. So it's just a different ballgame working at Joy FM. It's incredible.
So I want to get back to Joy FM, but I also want to focus a little bit more on you, because you've had some different things. So you had to put your roots down in the church, and we were talking about that a little earlier. I know that you're one of the founding people of Quest. So tell us a little bit about how that all came about. So
yeah, it's a fun place. So Quest is a church out in West County, St. Louis, and we used to be a young adult service. And I found out about it from a couple in the bookstore. They came in and they're like, hey, you should try this church, because I was new and my only friend was my fish that I had at home named Kevin, who eventually died, and that was really sad. So I'm like,
fish do.
I know, I need to know people. So I started going to Quest. It was Saturday nights. So after I got off work, I would go over there and started to meet some people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really great. And at the time it was all people kind of in my life stage. And so I never really had that before. And so I really appreciated that. But eventually we moved into like a Sunday morning multi-generational. And that's where I feel like it really started to flourish and where I started to flourish, because there's so much value in learning from people who are in different stages of life.
Amen.
And so I just kind of like, okay, I've always been a very, very much a growth mindset person. And so I see the opportunity. I'm like, I don't want to waste this. So let's jump in and learn and be the best version of who God wants me to be.
And you served there. I mean, and then they moved into a church now. And I know that when we visited there years ago, you were doing worship there. I imagine that hasn't changed. Yeah.
Every Sunday. We're a small church, but I love how, God has given us a lot of opportunity within the schools around us. And just to be able to serve the young families that are coming in. And actually, the most hop-in ministry at our church is called the Legends, and they're 65 and up. And I'm like, dang, I want to be. They party, like it's so fun. And so I just love being in a place where everybody has a spot and that you're seen.
Well, I can tell you this, they definitely serve all over the area, because when you said schools, I immediately was reflecting back. I think it was about a year or two ago, they were doing, I think it was either Valentine or something like that at my daughter's school.
Yeah. We're the volunteer crew for, I think Pond Elementary and
that was Wildwood Middle.
Wildwood Middle. Yeah. It's pretty amazing that the doors that have been opened for us, and we love serving them.
And they were serving. I said, where are you from? Because it wasn't, I could tell it wasn't a teacher or something. Yeah. They're like, we're from Quest Church down the road. I was like, oh, I love that church.
Yeah, it's so great. I love it. And our pastor is Kevin Hughes, and he is such a shepherder, which I think is such a gift to have someone who's a great teacher, but also a shepherder. And one of the things I love about Quest is that, there is no lack of men who love Jesus in our church. And I just think that's so important, because a lot of places you see a lot of women involved, which is fine and it's great, but to see men actually taking the lead of their families. And Kevin is kind of one of those permission givers. You don't need it, but there's just something about him. He's so tender that it gives them permission to enter into their families in ways that I think are really beautiful and unique. So it's a real joy to be there and get to serve there. So, and I work with the youth there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
It's fun.
It is. I work with youth and I love it.
Yeah,
too.
It's fun. It's fun. And I'm 50. I'll be 51 on Friday, actually. And
so you're barely ahead of me. I turned 49 just about a week ago.
I'll be 51 Friday. I've never been married. I don't have kids. And as much as I have sadness about that part of my life that I wish looked different, I also know that God has given me an opportunity, especially with the younger women who are at church, and even through the radio ministry, getting to connect with women who aren't married. And just to show them you can have a very full life and God still has a plan, even though it doesn't look the way that you thought it would look. And
Kim, you never know. We had a couple in here from Camp Penuel, it's a Christian camp here in St. Louis. Okay, do you know about them?
I don't, huh?
Okay. And they went to school together. Moved across the world, different spots, came back to Little Ironton, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
In their 40s. And he would pick on her when they were in elementary and middle school, right? They were joking about their yearbook of what he wrote in her yearbook.
That's
right?
Fun.
And they met in their late 40s, early 50s and got married.
That's amazing.
And now they do ministry together.
I'm not convinced the Lord has closed that door, but I'm also not. I'm just living my life,
Exactly. Well, I just thought that was fun. I thought that we just had them in that all long ago. And I thought that was how wild to be growing up, be gone for 30 years. He was doing full-time ministry. She was doing corporate stuff over and across the world. And then they come back to their little town and connect. And
God.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where were we?
Well, we were talking about Quest, and you served in the middle school or in the youth group, and then I was going to transition a little bit into what you brought up earlier, your cancer. You mentioned that. So tell us a little bit about how that all came about. How did you find out and experience that and how God used that?
It was super weird. I had been working out with a trainer, and I just noticed that I'd had like this weird little bump on the top of my foot, like where your foot bends, in your ankle bends on my left foot. And I thought, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe it'll go away. And because, I'm like, it's easy for me to get worst case scenario pretty quick. So I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And then eventually I was like, maybe I should just ask a podiatrist or something because it wasn't going anywhere. And it got diagnosed as a ganglion cyst. And I was like, okay, fine. And he said, those are super weird because they're hard to get out that spot because there's so many tendons and things around there, and they usually come back. So he's like, let's just watch it and just see. And I was like, that's fine. And so literally 5 years went by. And then we were doing, I actually was in Mexico on a trip, and I was miserable. I just wanted to stay in bed. I felt so terrible. And I noticed the bump on my foot was just getting bigger and getting hard. And then that was in January. And then by the end of February, my best girlfriend, Gina, is a nurse, and it was changing color and kind of getting numb. And she's like, okay, that means blood supply is getting to that, and that's not what you want. So you need to go get that looked at. So I went back to the same podiatrist, who's amazing. I still send people to him. I think he's incredible. And he said, literally his quote was, don't worry, kiddo, only 1% come back cancer, so you'll be fine. And it came back a very rare, like only 7,000 people in the world get this a year, rare cancer. And it was a variation of a sarcoma, which is a soft tissue cancer. And it was kind of even more unique in the fact that for sarcomas, they don't stage them like other cancers. They grade them. So it's like grade 1 through 4. And I had a 3, which is very dangerous, but it was wrapped in a 1. And so the 1 protected it from spreading other places. They call it like getting fingers, like growing and getting into the bone and things like that. So it was just incredible. My oncologists were like, we've never seen this before. This is incredible. And I had the most incredible care at Siteman Cancer Center, which P.S. happens to be where a lot of the specialists of sarcomas in the world are, which I've never even heard of before. Then they're like 20 minutes down the road. And I had this just amazing team of oncologists and radiation oncologists and surgeons and all the things. And it was scary because they removed it. And then what they did was they took part of my arm and they took nerves out of here and then rebuilt my foot with the nerves afterwards. So I was actually stayed down the street at the Quarters for a while post care because I had to relearn how to use my hand and relearn how to walk. And because I was non-weight bearing for, I think, 6 weeks or so.
Wow.
And I had to kind of start over. And I wanted that place because it was right next door to the radio station. So I knew I would have visitors. And I was scared because there was a lot attached to the health of my foot. Like if the graft didn't take, there was talk of like leech therapy or amputation. That was very much on the table. And I just was really scared. And so I was grateful to have people come and surround me. And of course, my church community was incredible. Like I was never alone. People from the Quarters were like, who are all these people that keep coming in? I'm like, it's my church. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, you should come sometime. So it was pretty amazing. And just to see God showing up. And even when I went back to work, just having the cards I would get from Joy FM listeners, I mean, and the gifts and the just random things. And I'm like, you guys are so loving. Like you don't, I guess they know me, but they don't know me. And I was so grateful. And I still am. I still have every single card because that is a reminder of God's faithfulness to me. And I don't ever want to forget that. So I went through radiation and that did it got rid of the cancer and also did a lot of damage. And so they were really considering amputation at that point because I wasn't getting the healing that I needed. My skin wasn't healing. And I also needed to start chemo, which for this kind of cancer, you have to start chemo within 6 months because it's not a reactive cancer, it's proactive. So it's kind of like, just in case it comes back, this chemo will help you. So I wasn't healing, so I couldn't start chemo with my healing not happening. And so I actually ended up doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which I'd never heard of that before. And that's really what saved my leg, because the people at the Mobap Wound Center were like, we're on this. This will be healed. We will take care of this. And I was there every week for, well, first of all, 60 of those sessions, and then every week for almost a year, having them care for me. And it just changed everything. And then my doctor was like, you don't need to do chemo. I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, the tumor board went back and we really spent a lot of time actually arguing and going through this. And we just decided, like, you're starting to heal. We'd like to watch that progress. And because it was wrapped in of the 3 wrapped into 1, it was kind of borderline whether or not the chemo would be effective or not. So I said, well, what do I do? What do I do now? Because my whole world had been cancer. I'm like, well, you mean I'm just done? And she's like, yeah. I said, well, what do I do? And she said, well, go heal. I'm like, okay. So I just was screaming and crying with my friend Susan in the room, and we're like, all right, let's go. We're done.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And I'm just past 4 years of clean scans, and I have at least 1 more year before they decide if they continue, for 6 months or a year. But
1 more year.
It's been a ride.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, it takes a lot of time to tell that story.
We're here for you.
There's a lot to it.
We want to hear it. Yeah, we want to hear. I'm learning so much.
Oh, it was quite a journey.
Yeah. So spiritually, I imagine that really challenged you as well. Mm-hmm. Was there a lesson that God really taught you during that?
It's so interesting. I really thought, okay, well, when I'm going through this, I'm going to have this like really rich, like lovey-dovey relationship with Jesus that maybe I hadn't had before, and I just kind of kept waiting for that like euphoric thing. But to be honest, I was on so many pain medications. Who knows if I had that moment or not? The feeling, I was waiting for this feeling. But as I look back, what I did learn, and it was so clear to me that God was asking me, Kim, even if I don't give you what you want, am I still enough? Am I still faithful? Am I still good? Because it's so easy to be like, God is faithful. God is good. Of course he is when it feels like you're getting everything that you want. But then when you don't get it, am I still those things? And I really felt challenged that God was requiring me to answer that. And that was scary. And it was also really beautiful at the same time, because I had to say, yes, God, I do trust you. Even if I don't get what I want, you are still good. That doesn't change. It's not about my circumstance. It's about who he is. And I don't think I'd ever really given him that credit before. And he was asking me to do it. And so, absolutely. And every scan, I'm still the same way. The question is still present. Am I still enough, even if this isn't going the way that you want? And I feel like he asks me to answer every time.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you're moved to St. Louis. You've been here now almost 20 years.
Actually, 2021. I moved here in 2002.
So in 21 years, is St. Louis now your home?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love St. Louis. It's such a fun and unique place. And, what really makes home anywhere is the people. And so I've got just tremendous community of people and my friends. I'm so grateful for the friendships that I have. My parents actually are gone. They passed away 10 months apart. Actually, when I first moved here, my dad died in May of 2004, and he had lung cancer. And then my mom died in a house fire in March of 2005. And so it was like,
wow, a house fire.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm an only child. So I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. Now what? But, God has given me so many incredible people who are truly more family to me than I've ever had in my own immediate family here in St. Louis. So I'm incredibly grateful. And I have family in the absence of blood family.
Isn't God good?
Yes.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how even when you have family here, he brings people alongside through the church to help complement maybe some of the weaknesses that, you know, they have.
Yeah.
So that you continue to learn, you know, how to be faithful.
Yeah. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that we didn't really root as a family very much. And I remember my pastor, we were actually sat at the Bread Co. up on Manchester here, and he was like, you need to learn how to root. And I remember thinking like, heck no, that's not what we Underwoods do. We don't do that. But rooting has been the most satisfying thing in my life because I think I was afraid of it. It didn't feel safe to root because of, I just maybe feared people leaving or the trauma that's attached to that just from upbringing and situations in my life. But learning how to root here as an adult has really been so stabilizing for me, and to realize like, no, it's safe to rely on people that God brings into your life. And it's not going to be perfect, and we disappoint them and they disappoint us. But at the end, it's still like, these are the people that God has given me, and where would I be without them? Like, I'm just, grateful is like all over my life. I'm so grateful.
And so your radio program, how did that all come about? Obviously, because you've got a unique afternoon slot. So I've always been curious about how this relationship built and how you became who you are in the afternoon. So was that just trial and error, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was on the air with Tim Thompson for a long time, and he was super fun and great to be on the air with. And then some of our roles changed, and Justin, Paul, who came in, and we've been on the air together for 5 years now. And it's just been, I was just saying, like, I've never had a brother, but now I have one. And Justin, you know, he's very creative and very, like, the things that he thinks of doing, I'm like, I would never in a million years even know how to begin to pretend to think about that. He's so incredibly creative. And so he knows how to take it and then, and craft it. And then, like, I'm the reactor. Like, a lot of times he won't tell me where we're going because he wants a genuine reaction. And so, like, we just work really well together. We have a great chemistry. And it's just...
That took 5 years again.
It did. I mean, we had it immediately, but one thing that I thought was really interesting is that, are you guys into the Enneagram at all? Do you guys get into the
I've heard of
Enneagram?
I've heard somebody say that.
It's a personality thing. And so once we realized like more of what motivates each one of us, like he's motivated by excellence, and I tend to be motivated by feeling safe. And so once like I learned to trust him, I feel safe. Like I can trust him. I know that even if it bombs, like it's still okay, you know? And so, and as long as he knows that I'm giving my 100%, you know, like that I'm doing it with excellence. Like we trust each other. And so it works. That's cool. It's good.
It works really well. Everybody I know loves you guys. And you're like one of the favorite shows.
Oh, thank you. We have a ton of fun. I mean, and even like, you know, there were days like the day that I was told I was going to have my leg amputated, and I was just not okay with that. I didn't want to go home. So I just came and sat in the studio and just cried all afternoon, and he just let me, you know, and like, I'm just so thankful to have people in my life who let me be who I am and aren't afraid of that, you know, of the emotion or the big laugh or whatever it is, you know. So I'm really grateful.
That's awesome. It really is. So some of being an afternoon DJ, you obviously have had some pretty cool Christian artists come through. Enjoyed them. Anybody you've enjoyed that was really cool to meet, or anybody that you got to sing with a little bit that you enjoy? I know you're a singer that was a cool thing. Was there somebody you were looking for?
Racing most?
Oh gosh, they're all so awesome. I mean, Toby Mac is the real deal. He is just legit. And he is exactly who you think he is. Like, he's just cool. He like drips with cool, and also is really deep. And so I love any time with Toby. One of my favorite artists, I love Josh Baldwin. He is a worship leader, and you probably sing his songs. I'm sure you do on Sunday mornings. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I love any time with him, and Brandon Heath is a favorite of mine too. He's such a great storyteller, and I love a good story, and that's something that as a communicator, I always want to sharpen my ability to be able to be a good storyteller. And so I can learn from people like Brandon Heath and even Andrew Peterson, who we don't really play on Joy FM, but he's such a great storyteller. But
we need to change that.
Yeah. Well, I don't make
I'm joking. I'm just joking.
Oh, it's about to get awkward because, I don't.
No, I'm just teasing.
No,
I like Andrew Peterson too, and I love Brandon Heath. He's one of my favorites.
Brandon's amazing. They're all so great. Like, I really can honestly say I have not had a bad experience with a Christian artist. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I was just curious if there was somebody that you were really looking forward to meeting. Like when I was younger, one of my first ones that I really enjoyed meeting was Bebo Norman.
Oh, I love Bebo.
I loved running into Bebo, and I hung out with him for a weekend, and he was just so.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, and when I was really young, meeting Toby Mac and all of the guys from DC Talk was so fun. They were just like a few years ahead of us because he was in college or just graduating college, and so they were the opening act for the opening act for the opening act, and I knew the opening act for them. How it was like they were. Yeah. I think Michael W. Smith was like the premier group, and it was somebody else, and then it was like DC Talk, and then there was this group that had one like CD out there called True for You from Georgia, and I knew them because I checked out their college as a junior. Okay. And like when you go check out a college, you put you in like somebody's dorm for the weekend. And that was like my host. And
that's cool.
They made these little like necklaces for DC Talk. And so when they were coming through St. Louis, I reached out. I was like, hey, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be at Six Flags, the opening act for the opening act for the opening act. So I got to meet DC Talk for the first time.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, they're so cool.
I saw that tour. I'm assuming it's the same one. Change Your World. And I saw it in Indianapolis. And so that was probably 93-ish, 92, 93.
That's the right time because I was a junior 91, 92.
Okay.
I graduated 92, 93. So that is the time period.
And that is the concert the Lord really spoke to my heart and said, you're going to work in this industry. You're going to work in Christian music. And I was like, oh, that's cool because I'm working retail. I don't see how that's happening. But I'm like, I'm going to hang on to that and maybe someday. And then here it is.
Wouldn't you know it?
Wouldn't you know it? Yeah. Yeah.
Small world.
I know. It's pretty crazy.
That is.
You got a good radio voice. Do you have a good singing radio voice?
Oh no. I think that's a whole different world.
Like a nationwide.
Oh no. I don't think I could.
No.
I don't know. I'm no Tori Kelly, so
Nationwide is on your Here, I'll do it first.
Nationwide is on your side.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's very good.
Her version was much better.
And only because it was in a different key.
I totally agree. I did that on purpose so you sound better.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
I sit next to him at church.
I sing like this though, so nobody gets my sound waves.
Oh,
can't hear.
I didn't know that's how that works. You just gotta sing like this.
Can't hear me when you talk.
Nationwide is on. I'm gonna start doing that on Sunday.
Do you really hear me in church when I sing?
Do I?
I try to get people to hear me.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't know if it's distracting or encouraging. I mean it for encouragement. Like if this ogre can sing, then I can sing a little bit.
Yeah.
The whole joyful noise thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think everybody should sing. There's not a bad singing. Nobody has a bad voice when you're in a church.
Yeah, it's not true. I
don't know. Because usually you hear them all together and it just gets blended. That doesn't bother me. It's kind of like when you hear a kid cry in church. When I was young, I remember when it used to bother me.
Yeah.
And now it's like the sweetest sound ever. I'm like, oh, like they're just praising Jesus. So they're a little wet.
Yes, but we still have human ears, and
it doesn't distract me too much anymore. It's now it's a pleasant addition.
Okay, well, I was just checking if it was a distraction.
No, you're never a distraction.
All right, good.
Maybe you're ready for a solo.
No, not.
You'll stick to just doing.
I'm not going to sing the special.
No.
You remember the special?
Uh-uh.
Like in church, they're like, Sister so-and-so is going to sing the special.
Oh, yeah, the
Like,
special.
The special.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had those growing up. Now that you said that, I just hadn't seen that in so long.
I know.
The special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The special.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good. All kidding aside, you have.
She has a great voice.
Thank you.
Yeah. I remember going to Quest and being like, wow. I mean, I knew you had a good radio voice, but I did not know about the singing voice.
Thanks. Can you guys just like follow me around and
We
just
can.
compliment me all the time? Don't worry, I'll trip and fall in the process because that's how you get to keep you humble. Yeah.
As long as you get back up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how God works.
I'm a get back upper,
That's like.
no doubt.
That's good.
So how's Sandy? She's really cool.
Amazing. Yes, she's such an incredible leader. And I talk about a creative woman. The things that she comes up with, I'm just like, wow, I'm in awe. And just her ability to communicate with people and to really like hone in on people's hearts and their stories. She is a master storyteller as well, and she has a great way of helping people pull out their stories. And I think that's something that I love about Joy FM is that like our 99-second story, and I don't know that she's necessarily a part of that anymore, but she's the one that kind of fostered that concept, and just to help people tell their story, because that's where like it's so relatable when you hear one of these 99-second stories. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, or hey, I know someone who's going through this, I want to share this with them. Like that, there's power in testimony. And so I think that's something that is missing in a lot of places, is that people don't share what God has done in their lives. And there's so much like comfort in knowing that like, man, I can do this, or I'm not alone. And I really am grateful for, her wisdom. She's just got a lot of wisdom and experience. She's such a trailblazer in our industry. Nobody even knows. Like Sandy Brown is legit. And she's actually just came off being the president of our industry, and that she did that for 4 years and then was like the vice chair for 4 years before that. But she's an incredible woman with a heart for Jesus and
her family.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was the key. She was out of focus on the family at one point.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
That was back in their heyday, like when they were huge. They had their big building. They had the basketball. I mean, they were one of the biggest programs in the country, and she's walked away from it.
She was a producer with them. And the Lord really called her and another lady here in town, Bobby Schisler, to start Joy FM, and they literally knocked on doors. They're like, we'll sell pizzas. We'll do you even have change? Is there a penny? And they did not get one penny, not one, to raise money for the station. And then the Lord just took a different direction and opened up the door for somebody else whose company was going public and ended up making double what they were supposed to. And so they gave that money to start Joy FM.
Wow.
And it's just truly incredible. And she always jokes and is like, oh, it's Grandma Sandy telling the stories. We're like, tell us. You never get tired of it. And I think, again, that's biblical. Like, the Lord tells us to remember, remember what I've done for you. Remember where you've come from. Remember, how I have shown up and how I've been faithful. And so, I think that's so important that we do that, because we are forgetful creatures. We forget things.
I think that's why he gives us scars.
Oh man,
so we don't forget.
Great, yeah.
Scars are there for us to remember.
Yeah,
they're God's way of sometimes allowing us to remember of His faithfulness. And when I bear my scars, I'm happy. I don't look at scars as a bad thing anymore.
Yeah,
just kind of like when you were talking earlier of going through the thing, and you thought you were kind of waiting for this thing with God.
Yeah.
Answer. I kind of felt that when I was going through a bad partnership with a bad partner at the time. And I remember it was so like walking through a desert would be the best way I would put it at the time. And I'd always been a bubbly, happy, church-going guy. Everybody seemed, I was a people pleaser, and all of a sudden it just felt like, where are you, God? And during that time, I just felt like God was saying, I'm right where I've always been.
Yeah.
You're just not, it's not a feeling. I'm more than a feeling.
Yes.
I'm faith.
Yeah.
And I'm right here with you through this dark time. I've never left you. And it was walking through that time that I realized that God, is more than just this feeling or this presence sometimes that we always, tend to want, right? Yeah. Like we want our mom and dad to hug us and love on us, but there's times where they don't do that because they know it's best for us, right? Like son, get in the game and hit the bat, hit the ball with that bat. I know you're you're feeling a little bit of roughed up from that slide, but you got to get back in. Yeah, knock the dirt off. That pain will go away. So, and it was kind of that moment. So, where God does that.
The scars, I think about, I look at, I see my arm every day, and it's gnarly looking, but
it's not gnarly.
It is. Like, I kind of joke, if I put lipstick on, I can have a little puppet show. I got party tricks, guys. So invite me. It'll be fun. But I look at that, and there's a song by Josh Baldwin called Evidence, and it says, "I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life." And it's just one of my favorite songs. And I always think of this every time we do that song, because this is evidence of his goodness towards me. Like, he could have done anything, but he gave me something to be reminded of. Like, no, I was in that too. It was in the hard things as well as the easier times. And I think that's a great way of looking at it. Like, the scars are just a visual reminder of who he is.
Yeah, his faithful.
And future promises that will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Think of anything that's fallen in this world.
Yes.
God has the exact opposite promise.
Yes.
You have a messed up skin. Guess what?
Yeah.
You got a new body.
Yeah. I know. That's crazy.
So.
My mom got in a really horrific car accident in college when she was living in Joplin, and she's actually the only person that survived. And she had a fused knee. So back then they didn't do replacements, so they just had to fuse her knee together, her bones and her leg. So her leg kind of like stuck straight out. And so I just remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, my mom's body is whole. Like, she has lived more of her life with it broken than she did without it broken. And now for eternity, like, she's bending her leg. She can walk freely. She can jump, like, all the things like that is so exciting when you think about what that's going to look like. Like, that's the good stuff right there.
That is.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Well, Kim, anything that we've missed or anything you want to share?
I mean, I'm a talker, so...
Well, we don't want to get everything at once. We got to have you back down the road.
All right. So. In radio, we got to talk like a minute at a time. So you give me an open mic, I'm just going to talk for days. So
we love it. We do. And I know so many people have been wanting to hear your story. Like my own wife asked the other day, did she lose her mom in a house fire? I think she said that.
I did.
And so I was like, well, we'll find out where God leads the conversation today. And if she brings it up, we'll know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It was that was a really interesting time. My mom's house basically exploded. Like, people in the town thought a transformer blew. And it was really, it was something else. And I think one of the things that was the most humbling to me is, I did have a lot of trauma growing up. My dad was an alcoholic. There was just a lot going on there. And so there's times where I think it's easy to look at your parents and say it's all good or it's all bad. And that's not fair, because nobody wants to be painted with that brush. And it wasn't all good or all bad. But when I was standing there by myself, because, it's just me in her visitation line, and there were hundreds of people coming through that I'd never seen before. And a lot of them were from a local prison ministry in our town. And they were like, "We loved your mom. She treated us like a person, not like a prisoner." And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was so humbling, because my mom had no problem with being like, "No, you belong," and that was so eye-opening for me. And, I kept being reminded of, with the Elroy, you're the God who sees. And I just feel like my mom saw people, and I want to be like that too. And like, I would probably be scared to let some of these people, like, she let them do the yard work or whatever just to earn some extra money. But she just saw, like, these are people who are hurting, because guess what? Desperate people do desperate things. And we've all probably been desperate at some point in our life and done desperate things. And she saw them as like, that's not who you are. It's something that you did. And God is a restorer. And that just spoke volumes to me. And it was like, I want to live like that too. And I don't know. It was really powerful. I learned a lot through those moments just in the visitation line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Praise God.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
fun.
for stopping in right on the road.
I know. Anytime.
Pro on here.
Whoa.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, we'll definitely get you back. So,
Fun.
yeah, absolutely.
We can get Justin on here. He'll talk baseball for days with you guys.
Tell him to hook us up. Yeah, we love having him
he's
here.
a
We love to hear.
baseball guy. And he's gotten me into fantasy football.
Oh,
And I'm not bragging, but I'm pretty darn good.
Yeah. Make the playoffs?
Well, I don't. Well, maybe last year.
Maybe last year.
Here's the thing: my lineup this year there was so awesome, and I can't tell you who any of the guys are.
I think that's how fantasy football should be done.
Yeah, I don't know who they are. I like them because of their name or their hair, and
or you can either brag about it to Justin.
oh my gosh, no way!
We can hook him up with that, but
Thank you.
Gosh, she's
he'll
giving it
love
to you.
that. Thanks. He. This year I was set to win the whole thing for fantasy football, and then all my guys got the guy that had this leg go like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning, that was one of my guys. And I love Nick Chubb just because I like Chubb. I think that's great. I think we should all, and Saquon Barkley,
yeah.
he's on. I got that guy, and I don't know the other ones, but I love fantasy football. It's so much fun.
Three's good.
Yeah.
so
Three's more than I could name when I played fantasy football one year.
that at your place because that's with
Gosh.
15-year NFL vet.
Oh, I'm not taking all your autograph stuff.
Take it.
Getting a Santa Claus today.
Well,
Josh,
we'll get some more signed. I've got Andy's a good friend of mine. Well, he's going to be back in here in a few
Awesome.
weeks, so I'll get another couple football signed by him.
Thank you.
So
Justin will love this.
that's Andy and Scott. Fans like the father-son duel. And then that's Andy McCollum.
That's awesome.
And if Timberman comes by, I'll come down here and grab that from you and get that signed by Timberman as well. And
Gosh, that's
some of the other Rams that may hopefully swing
Thank
through
you.
here.
Thank
So.
you.
Yeah.
So cool.
being on. Thanks.
Man.
Well, yeah.
This is awesome.
He kept asking me if I'm going to give the footballs away. So
Giving those away.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to keep the football just to irritate
sure.
him, just to irritate him a little bit.
just so you know,
Trade it.
Because he knows I don't know who these people are.
so the football is for you.
Oh, it is.
That is for
Thank
you. The
Thank you.
baseball, you
That's
can keep
for
the
Justin.
baseball.
No, I'll give it to Justin.
I was going to say, you're welcome to keep it and tell him if he comes on the show, we can give him one too.
Oh.
There's a couple more there, and I got a whole
All right,
bucket.
all right.
Here I'm going to get signed when I get Andy
This
back.
is getting
in here.
good, guys. This is.
Stick around. You might get more.
I mean, not here. My birthday's in a couple days. Well, you guys have been amazing. Thank you for having me on. So fun.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for being here, and thanks everybody for checking us out and listening.
Yeah.
Don't forget to support those that support us, like Andy McCollum, who signed that. Football, you guys can give them if you have any financial planning needs at 636-458-1798. Chris and CS Design for all your web and tech needs at 573-436-3717. And if you have a State Farm agent need for any type of insurance, give Jeff Earhart in his office a call at 314-821-JEFF, which is 5333.
I
So.
should have been the State Farm Mayhem guy instead of, or is that Allstate? Instead of Nationwide is on your side.
That's the
Is that Allstate?
Allstate Mayhem.
State
Mayhem?
Yeah,
What is
State Farm has right now the Patrick Mahomes and
Oh, yes, yes.
They've got to pull that after last week. Patrick
Oh.
Mahomes.
and Andy
The
Reid.
game. Yeah, that was a joke.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about sports, but
Well, I was just thinking, like, here I'm singing Nationwide, and we've got a sponsor of State Farm.
That's all
Trying
right.
to stay on brand here,
my
guys.
fault. But now we got a little talk.
State Farm is on your side.
There you go.
I don't even know their thing now. State Farm. What is it?
I used to love. It was the guy from 24,
Oh yeah,
David. Who I always wanted him for president, David Palmer.
Yeah.
Like,
David
legit. I'm like, I'll vote for him.
I would.
he has one of my favorite
Yeah.
shows. After 24, he did another show called The Unit that is like
Oh,
one of
yeah.
my all-time favorite
Unit?
shows. It's The Unit.
Yeah.
It's an early 2000s show.
Is
and
it on a stream now?
you can probably stream it somewhere. It has him. It has you'll notice a lot of the actors. There's a whole slew of them that are real popular that have gone on. Several of them. Scott Spielman, I think, was one of them, or I can't remember. But you'll notice
Okay.
it.
All right, we'll check it out.
So it was worth checking out. Yeah.
The Unit.
All right. Well, hey, we'll catch you next episode. Don't forget to check out all that. And thanks again. Talk to you.
Bye.